What is the worst example of rich people problems you have seen? I worked for a gal who had a speaker go out in her Ferrari and she refused to drive any further under those circumstances, so she pulled over to wait for one of her house staff to bring her the Porsche. Truth story. My car's radio antenna was out. And my CD deck was broken in that it would play the CD in there. But I couldn't change it. If I wanted any accompanying sound on my drives, it was the same 50-minute mix CD for 8 duck NG months. Every drive was the same songs for 2/3 of a year. Duck that itch and her Porsche. Had a former friend who went into despair because Hurricane Sandy flooded her living room of her childhood home. Told everyone she was homeless now and she knew what it felt like to lose everything the way her Jewish ancestors did in WWII. Thing is, she had an apartment she lived in on the island. Her parents owned several more vacation homes up and down the coast. They were a little inconvenienced maybe, but far from homeless. Wow. That's total lack of perspective. My rich aunt doesn't let us park in front of her house because it makes her mansion look bad. She should buy you guys new cars so that it won't look bad when you park there. Girl in college lost $6,000 in traveler's checks, but doing the paperwork to have them replaced was too much bother. I'd have offered to do the paperwork for a cut. Her response: Nah. Complaining about your allowance from your daddy at age 30, which is the rough equivalent of 2 average salaries. Or complaining that your dad bought your used car instead of a new one when you were 21. He only spent $10K. The girl could have been thankful that he even bought her a car. As entitled and bratty as that is, a car is a one-time purchase. After receiving a $5,000 a month allowance for more than a decade. Well, you do the math. My rich friend has had to respray his car multiple times because a peacock on his land keeps seeing his reflection in it and attacking it like crazy. Edit. Thanks for the gold. I'll let my friend know it wasn't all in vain. My neighbor had peacocks when I was growing up. We had a sheety above ground pool. And the stupid birds would come over, stand on the edge, scream, and poop. Usually at 3 AM. When I was in high school, my family was pretty poor and I had a fairly rich friend. My single dad spent years saving up for us to go to Disneyland. We finally went when I was 16. Fast forward a year. My friend is going to Disneyland for Halloween break. Her dad told her to invite 2 friends. So she invited me and another girl. I was freaking stoked. But she kept saying, I don't know, it's probably going to be boring. My grandma takes me to Disneyland like every break. And when we got there, all she wanted to do was sit on benches and text. All of the rides were boring and she'd already been on them dozens of times. It ended up being pretty boring for me because I didn't want to go on the rides without her. I knew someone who traded in his Porsche and bought a new one every year. His parents were wealthy. Died when he was in his teens and left him a multi-million-dollar trust fund. What was sad was that he felt that he couldn't pick up women without flashing his cash and expensive sports car. But he would dump them all in a couple of weeks because they were only into me for my money. Loneliest guy I ever met. Edit. He is not Batman. His parents died in a car accident and his butler's name is Davin. Not Alfred. They bought a new yacht because the wife didn't like the beds. I saw a guy on Instagram who couldn't wait for a car he custom ordered, so he went and bought one from the dealer while he waited for the custom one. I've heard of this more than once. Custom orders on high-end cars can take a long time. 6 months. A year. Maybe more. Sometimes the dealer will throw in a cheap lease of a stock model until the custom build is delivered. Hey, shut up. We're making fun of rich people. Has to buy up all of the surrounding plots of land to get some privacy. I had to help a girl pay her tuition bill. She was upset because she genuinely thought the process of putting in credit card information was difficult. Yes. She took her dad's credit card and paid $20K for the semester like it was buying a stick of gum. I'd put my tuition on my parents' credit card if I could. $40K of purchases would then give them a nice pile of points. And I'd obviously transfer them the money to pay it off. super rich docked in Italy at a high-end marina. Owners wanted the bottled Perrier water for a party they were having in a day or two. They wanted the marina to supply them with a pallet of said water. Marina said it was against policy for them to get a pallet of water to their boat. So they get a private jet from America to fly in a pallet of said water and get it dropped to the boat. Price was about $28,000 as far as I remember. But even that amount seems low for that. My friend wants to marry her boyfriend. They're going to school in America but are both from China. Her Beijing, him near Shanghai-ish. They both pay $60,000/year to go to high school here. However, she can't marry him because his family only owns 2 houses in Hangzhou whereas hers owns 7 in Beijing. Edit. Rich people benefits. A lot of the other students simply buy their citizenship, obviously illegally, if they're not the brightest and can't get into the esteemed American schools their parents expect. Edit 2. OHP apparently one can legitimately buy their citizenship. Who knew? However, it seems like it takes a long time whereas the students would be going to school here next year. I'm not sure of the details. I know I'm late to this thread but oh man. I work at a place where I interact with a lot of rich people. I have come into contact with lots of rich people problems. Here are a few I've witnessed. 1. 14-year-old kid looking despondent. And I asked him what was wrong. He replied, "We're going to Paris again. I hate it. It's so boring." 2. Mom's talking. I took her to her little friend's birthday party but I didn't know what to bring. Do kids like Coach bags still? I have no idea. 3. Ladies talking, what are you guys doing this summer? Second Monday replies, oh nothing. Last summer was crazy busy so this summer we are taking it easy. We are spending 1 week in London and 1 week in Hawaii. But other than that nothing. We are relaxing this summer. 3. Ladies talking, they can be expensive. But buying nicer cars like Porsches and Mercedes is worth it. We had a GMC once and we only drove it for like 4 years and we had to have something fixed. And it just felt old. There are many more. But those are a few. Edit. I get it. Paris is a crap hole and I can definitely understand that it is boring for a 14-year-old kid. The point was that complaining about taking multiple international vacations a year is definitely a rich person problem. I live in the part of my country where internet is really expensive. 16 megabits per second plans are considered plans for extremely rich people. One fine day, one of my friends threw a fit at his dad because he was getting 15 megabits per second instead of 16 for like an hour. Holy shit dude, I live on a 2 Mbps connection which turns into a 512 kbps connection after a 30 GB data cap. My aunt. I would wear the Rolex that uncle got me more but it's gold and I only wear silver. A cousin of mine is on his third Porsche 911 after he wrecked the first 2. He told me that his parents said if he destroyed it again, they'd buy him some other car. He wrecked the first one while drunk. And he somehow didn't injure anyone. I don't even think he got charged with a DUI. Eat. 2 more. My family usually charters our own plane whenever we go on vacation. It costs something like $6,000 per hour or something. 1 year the company overcharged my dad for a minuscule amount. I think it was like $1 grand. And he was considering disputing the charge or something. Ignoring the fact that $1K is nothing to us. And he already paid $36,000 for a flight. Oh. And my parents hate tipping the pizza guy for some reason. They have no problem tipping away to 50% or even 100% at a fancy restaurant. But the pizza delivery man? Duck that. My neighbor is this really down-to-earth guy who managed to work his way from nothing to being quite wealthy. He has his own company and pulls in north of $200 per year. A few years ago he married this beautiful brunette that can safely be said to be on the upper scale of maintenance cost. She was given perhaps too much freedom when they redecorated their mansion. And ordered custom-made stairs that cost about $100, which were made of glass steel. Once she had them installed though, She noticed that they didn't really match her choice in furniture, so she had a virtually identical set of stairs made that only differed from the last set by a few shades of white. How this guy puts up with her bullshit is beyond me. I was pumping gas in a rather dicey neighborhood at a cheap gas station, and this older woman pulls up in her Bentley. She pulls up on the pump ahead of me and cracks her window slightly and asks me for help. I ask her what she needs. She asked me to pump her gas cause she was too scared to do it herself. I asked her what type of gas she wanted and she said the cheapest. I asked her if she was sure. With such a high-end car, did she really want to put in budget gas? She said it didn't matter since she could easily afford any new car she wanted. So I insert my debit card and she hands me a $100 bill and says keep the change. I fill up a tank and my own 12-gallon Honda Civic tank and made about $30 in from the change. I finish up at the gas station and jump on the freeway to see my girlfriend at the time, and I am going the same way at this woman. I get off at the same exit as her. She is making a right to an affluent area and I am making a left off the exit to less nicer area. She rolls down the window and yells at me. I thought you were following me. I am so sorry, where are you heading? I told her to which neighborhood I am heading to. She gives an awkward smile and says I will tell the dispatcher that you are not following me and that I am not fearing for my life. Itch called the cops on me thinking I was following her to rob her. I ended up getting to my destination chill with my girlfriend and didn't get pulled over. I work at a hotel and whenever I valet a Rolls Royce or Bentley I just think of this old lady. My parents are rich and they grew up super duck ng poor. Their rich people problems are constantly worrying about money. They like to drive nice cars, have nice jewelry, and use it to up their status among their friends. In doing so, they spend money on useless things along the way simply for the pleasure of others and lost 2 of their 3 children, claiming that they only loved them for money. It seems when your money is what makes you, you can't believe anyone would want anything to do with you otherwise and begin to treat them that way. Now they are getting old and have only 1 of their 3 children talking to them, and that one only does so after having spent about $500,000 of their dollars on nonsense with hopes that the bank continues to stay open for him. It used to upset me because I didn't want money. I was the youngest, so I just made do with my siblings' things and I never felt like I was given extra even though we had so much. Then to have your mother call you a whore when you ask if she'd buy you some running shoes is hard to forget. Especially if they just gave another son 200 grand for Drew, Gus and hookers. My dad is a self-made millionaire. He accomplished it through hard work. And he raised me just as toughly as he was. He didn't want me to depend on money. I have some experience with people of my status. One girl I know convinced her parents to move so she could be closer to the horse stable she liked to ride at. She upped her dad's drive to work and her mom's. And her little brother had to change schools in 8th grade. The worst time to pull a kid out. Get this though. She made her mom buy her favorite horse. She also would try and make Emmy buy her a horse. Because I was rich and I didn't need my money like she did. Back when the recession hit, one of my very best friend's family was very distraught because they had to sell one of their 3 private jets. I worked for a non-profit that helped extremely low-income women start their own business. These women would give up food to scrape together enough money to join our program. One of our readees said she wished she could relate to our clients more. But she has never been poor. She owned 2 homes in one of the most expensive zip codes in the US. Also, another woman, whom I really did respect but not always agree with, believed people chose to be in poverty. We would debate for days about that statement. I realized working there that people who run advocacy programs for poverty have no idea what it's really like. This is a problem because policy and lawmakers are looking at these institutions for advisement on drafting new social safety nets and welfare programs to help the working poor, and they just have no clue. It motivated me to go back and get a master's degree to fight this. I grew up super poor and can speak from experience, not theory. I was once friends with a Chinese girl whose family net worth appeared to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars. She told me a story about a rich uncle who owned a super yacht and loved to travel around the world. Apparently his favorite thing to do was pull up into a port and bathe in the stares of everyone admiring his yacht since it was always the biggest one. Well, one day he goes somewhere, say the Bahamas, and he pulls into the port and he isn't getting the usual attention since someone else happened to have a bigger yacht than him for once. This girl said it ruined his whole weekend. He was in a terrible mood and couldn't enjoy anything. I was speechless. Also, this is the same girl that constantly complained about how all her friends weren't that smart or nice and how she doesn't know what to do with all her free time and money. That girl taught me something. Apparently there are a lot of rich people that have so little problems. They just make them up. And yes, I've seen her Facebook pictures, met her friends, seen her cars, and talked to her long enough to confirm that she probably wasn't lying.